Made me take my break. I just got through 8 hours and 20 minutes of this course. It has taken me 135 days, but not like straight. I was doing really good doing an hour of me doing the course a day, and then July 4th happened, weekend. I was with family, and it knocked me off of my habit. And then it's just so much harder to get back into a habit once it's been broken. But, well, I mean, I'm not being shy about it. My company got acquired, and now I just don't want anything to do with this. So we're going to get me these skills so that I can apply for these jobs that I do want. And I have a plan. But the plan involves knowing how to do this. So I want to be in Web3, and I want to help people, and basically I just want to be doing 0 to 1 websites. So I think I have one more voiced image here. That's not a good output, but we're gonna save it anyway. I'm absolutely obsessed with the first space host that I did during my break. Let me give you any art. Nobody cares about this. You're a captive audience, but yeah. This one I'm going to have to list somewhere to sell because it's really nice, honestly. But yeah, I was just relaxing during the break, and now I have almost an hour to do more of this. Lesson 6. I don't know why my intro is so long. But yeah, we're gonna try to get through lesson 6 today. It took me an hour and 20 minutes to get through 20 minutes of lesson, though, for lesson 5. It just did not want to let me get through it. So, who knows? But hey, I figure I was going to spend the amount of time I was going to spend in the lesson anyway, so if I dedicate enough time to doing this, I will make forward progress on this. So, I do have plans for this weekend, which will cut into doing this in particular, but it's neither here nor there. Everybody has a life outside of, learning.
All right, so now that we've learned about Ethers.js and how to do some more raw JavaScript coding, we're now going to move into Hardhat. We saw with our Ethers simple storage that deploying a contract can take a lot of code, and there's a number of things we didn't even do in here. Like, we didn't save where this contract was deployed, so we'd have to go remember where it was deployed every time, instead of having it just added programmatically. We didn't write any tests here, and we'd have to build our own testing infrastructure. Maybe we want to make this a cross-chain application, and we want more than just one private key and RPC URL. You can absolutely work with your smart contracts in JavaScript purely through Ethers and small scripts like this, but we want a more robust framework for doing all of this. And that's where Hardhat comes into play. Hardhat is easily one of the most, if not the most popular smart contract development framework out there. It's used by massive, several billion-dollar protocols like Aave, Uniswap, SushiSwap, and more. In fact, I recently did a poll on Twitter, and even though a lot of my content has been more Brownie and Pythonic, Hardhat was well and beyond the most popular framework. And Hardhat has quickly become one of the most advanced frameworks out there. Hardhat is a development environment, which allows for JavaScript-based development, kind of like what we saw with Ethers. It gives us even more tools to integrate our code with common things that we want to do. It's incredibly extensible, and it has really nice debugging features as well. And it's just an overall fantastic tool. So let's go ahead and let's jump in. If you want to follow along with the code, come over to the GitHub repo and scroll down. Lesson 6, Hardhat Simple Storage, and all the code is located here. And a quick note for the future, wherever you want to just download all the code from one of these repositories, the way you can do that is by doing a git clone. What you do is you come to the folder that you want to put this code in, and you run git clone, and then you grab the URL that you want to clone, paste it in. Now, you can cd into your new folder here that has everything downloaded directly from GitHub. But only do that as a...
All right, so it's better in this case for me to just type it out myself and just to go at my pace to make sure I understand what's going on, because it's so easy to just like on a high level understand something, but until you go to do it and it's in your own environment and things are happening, it's, you know, it's different. And then once you've done it yourself a few times, it becomes muscle memory. You start intuitively knowing where things are supposed to go. I'm just going to create a new one. We'll just do like hard hat. This is lesson 6. This is lesson 6 because of course it is. Okay. I just made a new folder in here, so we're now going to be doing everything in hard hat. Lesson 6, and then I don't know what he's doing, but I'm not above, if I'm stuck on something, to go to the code and actually look and see, because sometimes in these things the screen flashes by too quickly, I didn't quite catch it, it's not working, I'm upsetsy, the usual. So I'm not afraid to just look at the final output and compare what would have happened. But yeah, for the most part, it's good to do mini quests as you're taking tutorials. I just really, really want to get through this. We are a quarter of the way through this course. It's gonna feel so good to be 12 hours into this. 32, 17 hours into this, right? 32 divided by 2, 16 hours into this. Wow, I'm good at math. Anyway, double the amount of right now. It'd be halfway through, and then it's all downhill from there. So the only thing is that I'm going to be doing this in Vue and not React, because I do not want to deal with React.
To back up or to just download the code yourself. But for now, just follow along with me. Right, so let's do this. Let's create our next project using Hardhat. The project that we're going to be making is called Hardhat Simple Storage-FCC, or Free Code Camp. This is going to be us working again with that simple storage contract, but in Hardhat, and we're going to show you a ton of the fantastic tools that we can use to make our coding life way easier.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is copy the Ether Simple Storage Soul to here, and that way we have the contract here. So let's do some hard hat setup.
So I'm in a brand new VS Code, and we're going to create a new folder for us to run all this. Now, what you can do to create a brand new folder is once again, you can do mkdir hardhat simple storage fcc. Now we can cd into hardhat simple storage fcd and type code, period. And this will open up a new Visual Studio Code inside of that folder. Now, if we open up our terminal, you'll see that we are indeed inside of that folder. Now, if that doesn't work for you, you can still, of course, do File, Open Folder, and select the folder you'd like to open, and you'll be inside of that folder. Now that we have our folder set up for working with Hardhat, we can begin setting up our environment to be incredibly professional using the Hardhat framework. We've got a link to the Hardhat documentation inside our full Blockchain Solidity course.js. The Hardhat documentation is phenomenal, and I highly recommend everybody have it up as they go through this section, because it's going to give you pretty much everything that we can see.
No, see, this is why I gave up one night, because I did this and I didn't know where I was, and holy poop, that's
it's used
depressing.
by massive, several billion-dollar protocols like Aave, Uniswap, SushiSwap, and more. In fact, I recently did a poll on Twitter, and even though a lot of my content has been more browny and Pythonic, Hard Hat was well and
Shit.
beyond the most popular framework,
No.
and Hard Hat has quickly become one of the most advanced frameworks out there. Hard Hat is a development environment, which allows for JavaScript-based development, kind of like what we saw with Ethers. It gives us even more tools to integrate our code with common things that we want to do. It's incredibly extensible, and it has really want to follow along with the code located here. And then you grab the URL that has everything downloaded directly. You can see and then you grab the URL yourself. Yeah. The project that we're going to be making with that simple our coding line, and we're going to create a new folder, Hard Hat, Simple Studio Code, inside the folder up outside our full blockchain solidity course JS. The Hard Hat documentation is phenomenal, and I highly recommend everybody have it up as they go through this section because it's going to.
Gosh, that's a little dramatic for me. I just, wow. This is another reason why I don't think this should be 32 hours long. Because if it's a 15-minute video and you do that, you can get back, but holy poop. Thank God I was so obsessive about the time just now, and it was at the beginning of the lesson because I would be super unhappy. Just saying. It's my own fault.
Give you pretty much everything that you need to know for working with Hard Hat. You can simply go ahead over to tutorial and get started. If you want to pause the video here and read through the tutorial, I recommend doing so. It'll give you a lot of information about how to work with Hard Hat and more about Hard Hat. However, we're just going to jump right into setting up the environment. We've already installed Node.js on Linux or Mac OS. And those of you who are using Windows, I set you up with WSL, so you can just follow the Linux instructions. Now, to create a new Hard Hat project, you can actually...
Did we already do this? I feel like... Get started, overview... Again, there's things inside of the package JSON we ought to have. But instead, we'll just have it be like this. That way, when I do this, it's saved. Do we have anything else that we're supposed to do? To use your local installation, you need to use npx. Okay, npx hard hat. If you're using Windows, we strongly recommend that you do not. Okay, npx hard hat compile.
Just go ahead and run these steps right here. Instead of npm, we're going to be using yarn, but if you want to use npm, you can absolutely do so. The Hard Hat docs say run npm init --yes. We're just going to run yarn init, which is going to create a new project for us in this folder. So let's give it a name, which if we want it set to this, Hard Hat Simple Storage FCC, we just hit enter. We'll give it a version, and if we want it 1.0.0, we just hit enter. We're going to skip the description for now, just by hitting enter, and we're just going to hit enter for this as well. Enter for this as well, 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 just to keep those as blanks. And if we look in package.json, we now see we have a name, Hard Hat Simple Storage.fcc, we have a version, we have a main, which we're actually going to delete the main, and then we have a license as well. Yarn init just sets up this package.json for us. Now we're going to do yarn add --dev hard hat. So far, we've just been running yarn add, and then whatever our package name is. But for most of what we're doing, we really want to do yarn add --dev. The reasons for this is a little bit nuanced, but we can see some of the information on this Stack Overflow question here. The main difference is that dependencies are required to run your project, whereas dev dependencies are required only to develop. For the most part, we're going to be doing just --dev. When we get to the front-end portion of this course, we'll be installing more packages that we don't need just for development. Now, in the same directory where we install Hard Hat, you can run npx hard hat. So a quick note about npx is that the yarn equivalent of npm is just yarn. So yarn equals npm. The yarn equivalent of npx is also yarn. So pretty much anytime you see npx do something, you can just replace that npx with yarn, and it'll do the exact same thing. If you want to run this with npm or npx, you can absolutely do that as well. So for us, we're going to run yarn hard hat, and we'll see we'll get prompted to actually start creating a hard hat project. Run yarn hard hat. And we'll get this wonderfully cute prompt right here and saying, welcome to Hard Hat. What do you want to do? Create a basic sample.
Okay, so
And we'll see we'll get prompted to actually start creating a Hard Hat project. Run yarn hard hat.
Okay. Is this what we're talking about? So like npx hard hat. Hey, what do you want to do? I'm going to create a JavaScript project because I think that's going to be easier than whatever else. So basically, do I want to add a git ignore? Yes, I would have to do that anyway. Do I want to give them anonymous crash reports? You absolutely don't ever want to do that. Do you want to install the sample project's dependencies with npm? The answer was yes, because why not? See the README. Okay, so this, if I were to push this up to GitHub, this would be formatted pretty nice. Oh, see, this has the triple backtick in the shell, so this will look like a shell command.
And we'll get this wonderfully cute prompt right here and saying, welcome to Hardhat. What do you want to do? Create a basic sample project, create an advanced sample project, create an advanced sample project that uses TypeScript, or create an empty hardhat.config.js. For us, we're just going to select create a basic sample project. And this is going to give us all the boilerplate for a really simple Hardhat project. The Hardhat project root is going to be this folder that we're in right now. Do you want to add a git.gitignore? Yes, we absolutely do, because we're going to be using .env files. Do you want to install this sample project's dependencies with Yarn at Nomic Labs Hardhat, at Ethereum Waffle, at Chai? We're going to go ahead and say yes. And I'll explain what all these dependencies are in a bit. Let's go ahead and say yes for now. And we're going to install all of these dependencies. Now, if we look in our package.json, we can see we've added a number of dependencies, like Nomic Labs Hardhat Ethers, Nomic Labs Hardhat Waffle, Chai, Ethereum Waffle, and Ethers. Obviously, we're already familiar with Ethers, but the rest of these might be a little new. We'll talk about those later. And great, we now have a sample Hardhat boilerplate project. Let's walk through what we just installed here. The first thing we have is a contracts folder, which comes pre-populated with greeter.sol. It's really minimalistic.
I think at some point it replaced all of that with just the toolbox, which is nice. Yeah, that's not formatted super well. Not sure why that did that. That's fine. All of this is fine.
Contract here. Next, you'll see node modules, which of course is our installed JavaScript dependencies. Something I want to note, because it was really confusing to me when I first started working with this, is some of these node modules start with an @ and then a lot of them don't. What's the difference between those two? These @ node modules are known as scoped packages, which effectively allow npm packages to be namespace, or Yarn packages. This allows organizations to make it clear what packages are official and which ones are not. For example, if a package has a scope @Angular, you know it's published by the Angular core team. So it's the same thing with this. Anything with @ENS domains, we know is by the ENS domains team. Anything with @Nomic Labs is going to be by the team that created Hardhat. So that's why this @Nomic Labs, Hardhat Ethers, and @Nomic Labs, Hardhat Waffle has this @ sign, because we know it's published by the Nomic Labs team. Then we have a scripts section. This is going to be where we're adding any and all of our scripts that we want to write, like deploying contracts, interacting with contracts, etc. And then we have a test folder. We haven't started building any tests yet, but tests are incredibly important for working with smart contracts. And this sample test folder gives us a minimalistic test for testing our smart contracts. We of course have a git ignore, which of course comes pre-populated with some important things to ignore, like .env, and also node modules, because node modules might get too huge to push up to GitHub. And one of the biggest changes here is it adds this hardhat.config.js. This file, even though it's minimalistic right now, you can think of as the entry point for all the scripts that we write. It's the configuration file that determines how the rest of our code is going to work and interact with the blockchain. Then, of course, we have package.json. We get started with a README. Remember how the first time we ran Yarn Hardhat, we were prompted with this getting started piece. Now, if we run Yarn Hardhat, we're actually going to get output of all the different options and commands we can use with running hardhat. Now, if you run into an issue where you run yarn hardhat and this pops up, but you don't see a hardhat.config.js in your folder, it likely means that there's a hardhat.config.js in a higher level folder, or there's...
Okay. It just means that you weren't careful, like you weren't, like you didn't see into this, so it's one thing up, one level.
There's a node modules with hardhat in a higher level folder. So if that happens, maybe cd down a directory and do a little ls and look to see if you've got a hardhat.config.js or node modules in an earlier folder. And because I've actually seen a number of engineers have a couple of different problems here, my friend Cami is going to explain a couple of different troubleshooting tips you can take to try to avoid these common errors.
As a developer, the most annoying thing to deal with are environment setup issues. My name is Camila Ramos. I'm a DevRel engineer at Edge and Node supporting the Graph protocol, and I'm going to show you how to solve two common problems that you might see when working.
Literally, yes. Yes. Gosh. That, oh God, I was like a mid-level engineer, but their environment was so awful that I was a junior all over again. And I'm talking about one of the startups I worked at. And then they did something to their Rails and I just could not get it up. And then I found a way around it, and then, oh my God, it was a big ass thing. So yeah, I'm very careful when I am setting up environments now. I understand Docker a little bit more, which is good. I still don't like it particularly, but it has its uses.
Working on this project. After installing hardhat and running the command npx hardhat in your new project folder, you're going to expect to get back a menu of options like this, but sometimes you're not going to get that back. And when you run into this error, there is a solution for you. And it usually just means that you have a config file somewhere that it shouldn't be, and deleting it will get rid of that error. What you're going to do in order to find this file that you need to delete is run the command npx hardhat space -- verbose. And this is going to spit out where this file is if you have one, and it's going to tell you exactly where it is so that you can delete it. After you've deleted this config file, you should be able to run npx hardhat in your project folder and get back that menu that we were expecting. Another problem that is pretty common and I still run into all the time is forgetting to npm install. Whenever you're working with a repo that other people have been working on GitHub, so let's say you're pulling down some code that you and some collaborators were working on together, and then suddenly it's not working for you, you probably just need to npm install. So in your terminal, go ahead and navigate to where this project is located and then run the command npm install. If there are any new packages that were installed in the time that you weren't working on the code, those will get installed locally for you so that when you run the code, it'll be able to run successfully.
Thanks, Cami.
What are some of the main things we can do with hardhat? And it's
I said that anytime we have like a mini lesson, I can, take a break, but I don't need to. I'm good. So I have a half an hour before I need to leave. So, yeah, I'm just like really obsessed about like, can we get to lesson 7? Can we get to lesson 7? We're getting closer all the time. We're we're half an hour until 9 hours, and then so we're a quarter of a way there. So I'm definitely the sort of person that if I'm not totally, well, even if I am enthralled, I'll just look to the end of the book and see how many pages are left and like how many pages are left to the chapter. It's a, I don't know, character flaw, I guess, for me, but.
raw state here. These are some of the main tasks that we can run with hardhat. Different tasks are just different commands we can run with hardhat. For example, we can do yarn hardhat accounts, which will print out a list of
It's kind of weird that it's not like oh, okay, yes, someone reminded me about verify, but like we'll see. They have their lock.sol there, and I have this here, so we'll just put this into there. Yeah, we'll put you in the contracts area. That's probably where it belongs anyway. I really, really, really just want to do a split lazy mint contract on Ethereum. And I can't believe marketplaces are making it this difficult. Still, it's just in the back of my head. I need to probably look a little bit more at Third Web. I recreated their split contract in Remix, but I didn't know how to test it, and I think we can get this information if I think about it really hard, and I go through the rest of this course. But I think what they did in Etherscan when we verified it and it spit out the ABI, I think that would be helpful. And then it had like the view commands and stuff. So we'll get there, because I really just want to lazy mint. And the way I understand lazy minting work is it mints, like basically lazy mints on one contract, and then when you go to actually mint it, it calls another contract. So it shouldn't be this difficult. That's what I'm saying.
Fake accounts we can use with Hardhat, similar to the list of fake accounts that we used with Ganache. We can compile our contracts by running yarn.
Oh, okay. So what did he do? Accounts? MPX Hardhat. See, I don't have accounts. This might just be a thing where okay. I don't know if that did what I wanted it to do, honestly. So, we'll just keep going. I think maybe he has his set up better than I do right at the moment, and eventually I will have a list of accounts, hopefully. Or this version doesn't have that, or it's not set up correctly. These are my choices.
Do yarn Hardhat accounts, which will print out a list of fake accounts we can use with Hardhat, similar to the list of fake accounts that we used with Ganache. We can compile our contracts by running yarn Hardhat compile. Very similar to what we did with Ethers.js and Sulk.js. You'll see when we run compile, we get a cache, which is just going to be a quick way
to do something, but this will just have weird. Oh, that's Sol. So they're using JSON, but we need it to be in bin and ABI.
access Solidity files, and we also get an artifacts section. This artifacts folder contains all the information about our compile.
Oh, yeah. Also, npx hardhat compile. Okay. So these are also JSON files, but not the binary. I guess it would be content hash.
Old code. We look in here now, we can, for example, look in the build info and see a ton of information about our compiled contract. If we look in contracts, we can see more compiled information. And then if we look in the hardhat/console.sol, we can see more compiled information. So all of our compilation information is going to be in this artifacts folder. And whenever you want to look to see what's going on the lower level when you compile, this artifacts folder is what has everything. There are a number of other hardhat tasks that we can run as well, but we'll get to them as we go. So now that we have some of the basics of hardhat down, let's go ahead and try doing some of the same things we did with ethers before, but with hardhat. So one of the first things we want to do is we want to write and interact with our smart contracts. So let's go ahead and rename greeter.sol to simple storage.sol. You can click on the file and hit enter.
Well, for example, this is called lock and not greeter. And it doesn't have a greeting. So we'll just keep the simple storage.sol, but we're actually going to delete the lock.sol. Don't need it. Well, the deploy script is not going to work.
And should be able to rename it. Otherwise, you can go ahead and right click, delete it, and then create a new file and call it simplestorage.sol. We're going to copy paste all of our code from our previous simplestorage.sol into this file. We can make sure that our simple storage is compiling correctly.
Wait, why don't you just delete that and then copy the file over like I did? That's weird.
By running yarn hardhat compile.
So this is nothing to compile, so
Whoa, it looks like we ran into an issue. Project cannot be compiled. See reasons below. The Solidity Pragma version of the file doesn't match any of the configured compilers in your config. Well, what's going on? Contracts/simplestorage.sol 0.8.8. Okay, let's go ahead and fix that. So we can open up our hardhat.config.js. Now, a quick note on opening files. If you're on Mac,
we're on the same version, which I knew because we were compiling successfully, but hey, never hurts to check.
And you hit Command P, you can actually start typing in the names of files to get them to them quicker. Or if you're on Linux or Windows, you can type Control P. This will bring up, and interestingly, if you type Command P or Control P, and then you hit the greater than key, this will drop you into the command palette. No command palette, command palette. Search for files, search for commands. In our hardhat.config.js, we can scroll down to module.exports and change this to 0.8.8 so that the version that we're going to compile for a simple storage is going to be the same version that hardhat is looking for. Let's run that same command by just hitting up yarn hardhat compile. And awesome, we see compiled one Solidity file successfully. We should now see this in artifacts. If we go to artifacts and contracts, we now see two contracts in here, greeter and simple storage. And we can see a ton of the information about simple storage. We can also see some more lower level information in build info. All right, so now that we have our simple storage contract in here, the next thing we probably want to do is learn how to deploy it. This is where we're going to write our deploy script. Now, for this section, I'm going to be showing you how to write a deploy script, but in the next section, we're going to do it a little bit differently. But this is still going to teach you how to write scripts and work with scripts in hardhat. So we're going to come to our sample script.js, and we're going to...
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is actually do cp scripts deploy as scripts. And then touch. Because I think there's going to be a significant change. That is really weird. Oh, I CP'd instead of moved. Well, that works. I just think we are going what did I just think? I think we're going to be changing a lot because it used to be the lock file. And yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and hit enter and rename it to deploy.js. And if you want to read all the comments in here, you absolutely can. We're just going to go ahead and delete them all. A quick keyboard shortcut is if you hit Command A or Control A, you'll highlight all the text in your file. And we're going to go.
I'm just going to assume these are true. And I like the way that, like, then process.exit one, I think it is, and then catch. Process exit one, catch. That is what we were doing in exit 0. I don't, obviously, okay. Exit 0. So that means that basically we're properly exiting this, and it's a try catch.
Go ahead and delete it all. So now we're just going to start from scratch here. Now the setup for our deploy script in here is going to look really similar to the setup of our deploy script from our previous section. We're going to do imports at the top. We're going to have our async main function, and then we're going to call the main function. So let's go ahead and define our main function. We'll call it async function main, like that, and then we'll call our main function. And if you want to just copy paste this from the last section, you absolutely can. So we'll do main.then.
Okay, this is plugged in, but I'm losing power.
Boom, just like that. And because these semicolons are going to drive me absolutely insane, we're also going to add prettier and our Solidity prettier plugins. So we'll do yarn add --dev prettier and
okay, forgive me for a second. I'm gonna unplug it from my work computer. I should probably just give up on my work computer and put this on the docking station like a normal person. That way I could use my keyboard if I'm at my desk, but it doesn't matter. We're almost at the end of my work day. I need to leave in a few minutes. I have a meeting I need to prepare for. But let's npm I prettier and node or something, whatever it is. What is it?
Prettier plugin. Solidity.
And then I just copied the last file over to here.
Then we can go ahead and create our .prettier RC file. We're going to add tab width, or use tabs, false, semi, false, and then single quote, also false. Now we're going to be using this prettier RC file setup a lot. So in future sections, if you want to just copy paste it, you can absolutely do that as well. We're also going to add a .prettier ignore, which tells prettier not to form.
I could have sworn I saw a prettier ignore. Okay, so and this is like the get ignore.
Format some files, which we want. We don't want prettier to spend a ton of time formatting all of our files. I'm just going to copy paste.
Okay, so coverage, cache. Oh, okay, never mind. So, got artifacts. Cache. Coverage. .env. Oh, and I'm not sure where he's copying and pasting this from, but I copied and pasted it from the get ignore and just
from the GitHub repo.
oh, from the GitHub repo. And I was really close. Just package will be the same.
So feel free to copy paste from the GitHub repo as well. You can find all the code for this section, like I said, in the GitHub repo associated with this course. Now, unlike in our last section, where we had to grab our contract code a little bit more manually, with Hardhat, there's actually a number of different ways to grab compiled contracts. The first way we're going to do it, we're actually going to use ethers. And now this is where one of the first confusing changes actually comes in. Previously, we did const ethers equals require ethers. And that was how we went ahead and worked with ethers. However, you'll notice in our dev dependencies, we have this dependency called Hardhat ethers. Hardhat ethers is a package that actually wraps Hardhat with its own built-in ethers. This is really advantageous because it allows Hardhat to keep track of different deployments and different scripts and all these other things for us. So instead of importing ethers directly from ethers, we're actually going to import ethers directly from hardhat instead. This might seem a little
Okay. I think we can do like a comma and ethers if you want to do both. But we will just replace the HRE. And this makes sense.
confusing at first, but just know if we want to work with ethers and hardhat, it's usually much better to pull it in from hardhat. You can still do this, and ethers will still work the same, but hardhat won't necessarily know about different contract factories and different pieces, and you'll see that in action in a second. Now that we're pulling in ethers, we can actually immediately grab a contract factory using ethers. We can say const simple storage factory equals await ethers.get contract.
So, okay, so I need to leave soon. Const simple storage factory equals await ethers dot get. Oh no, that's not what I want. Get contract at.
Factory.
Oops. Nope.
Simple storage.
So like simple storage dot sol, and we have contracts, and we have this artifacts, and here we have the simple storage. That's, yeah. So I guess we can call it like a normal person.
In order to get a simple storage contract factory, we can just do await ethers.get contract factory. Now, if we pulled right from ethers, the package ethers doesn't know about this contracts folder, and ethers doesn't know we've already compiled simple storage.sol, and it's in our artifacts. Hardhat, on the other hand, does know about the contracts folder and does know that it's already compiled, which is why this simple storage factory grabbing works so well. Once we have our factory here, we can do the same thing that we did in our previous section and deploy the contract. So we'll do a quick console.log.
You do console.log waiting. Thank you for waiting.
Deploying contract, ... And then we'll do const, simple storage. Equals await simple storage factory dot deploy.
And then something about transaction.
And boom, with that little bit of code, we're already able to deploy our simple storage contract. Then, to wait to make sure it gets deployed, we can do await simple
Await simple storage.
storage dot deployed. And that's it. Now let's see what happens when we go ahead and run this deploy script. As you know, in our last section, we had to put in a private key and we had to put in an RPC URL. Right now, we don't have either one of those defined. So what do you think? Should the script actually work, or do you think it'll break because we didn't define what blockchain we're going to deploy to? We also didn't find a private key. Well, let's go ahead and try this out. We can run the script in our terminal by running yarn hardhat run scripts/deploy.
So npx hardhat run scripts deploy JS. And we did not console log anything else, so it didn't error, so I'm assuming it did something.
Deploy.js. And again, I'm hitting tab here to do a little auto-completion. Let's see what happens. Well, we got deploying contract. It says done, but that's really it. So what really happened? Well, let's add one more line in here. Let's do console.log. We'll do some string interpolation. Deployed contract to, and then we'll add simple storage dot address.
Okay. Simple storage dot address. Okay. Yeah, so shit, was it at 5? Or is it at 5:30? Shit. Hold on a second. Why is my calendar like this? No! No! Shoot, okay. I need to